Hello, my name is Katrina Welnicki. It is May 28th, 2016. This is for lab number 3. I'm actually filming it in my bathroom so you can see that I have no one here telling me the answers. I have no computer or any outside information. What I have here are my illustrations. I'll go through them one by one. This is the first one, this is the first one I have for the skin. You can see that nothing has been labeled. There's nothing on the back. This is my second illustration for the skin. Again, nothing has been labeled and there is nothing on the back. I had to kind of write down a separate list for the skin because the ones that I printed off, I actually made notes on them. So I just rewrote the list that was provided during the lab. This is my illustration for the bones. Got 3 different ones. Again, nothing has been labeled. The only thing that's on the back was another thing of the skin that I had made. But again, no answers or anything. Another list just stating for the bone what needed to be labeled. And last but not least, I'm just realizing I have this upside down. Last but not least, the list of bones and muscles of the head and torso. Again, nothing on the back. I have this little dude to help me out with that illustration. So the first one I'm gonna do is the skin. So I'm gonna have the list right here. I have my 2 illustrations. And I'm basically just going to point on the illustration, kind of where that item is. So the first one is basement membrane. That's going to be this right here. Next one is blood vessels. I actually have that on both illustrations. So that's going to be here and here as well. Next is going to be the dermis, which is going to be that middle area. Top one is the epidermis. I'm probably going to butcher how you say this, but it is keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Next one down is the keratinocytes. So I have that here. I have both the dead and the living, because the living are going to kind of push those dead cells up. Next is the hypodermis, which is this right here, which is comprised of adipose tissue. Next on the list is a melanocyte. I have one of those shown right here. Next on here is the papillary layer and the reticular layer. So I have the papillary layer, which is areolar tissue, and then the reticular layer, which is going to be that dense, irregular connective tissue. Next is going to be the stratum basale. So it's going to be, that's going to be this right here. That's going to be the basale. This is going to be the stratum spinosa. This is going to be the stratum granulosum. This is going to be the stratum lucidum, and this is going to be the stratum corneum. There's actually a really good mnemonic for that was mentioned by one of the other students in the class, like the come let's get sunburns. That was really cool, a good way to remember that one. And then lastly, I picked the sebaceous gland, and that's going to be shown by this right here. The sebaceous gland produces sebum, which is responsible for keeping the hair and skin oily so it doesn't get too dry or anything like that. So that is the skin, and I'll kind of just show just for a second so you can take a good look at it. I promise I'm not like the best artist in the world. Again, my other drawing of the skin and my list, I'm just going to place those right there so they're out of the way. Next one is going to be the compact one. I'm actually going to switch these. No focus. What in the world? Why won't this focus? Do apologize. My phone's being a little, there it goes. Okay. So for compact bone, I'm just gonna do the same thing. So the first thing on the list is blood vessels, and those are gonna be here, kind of shown right here. Next thing is gonna be the canaliculi. That's gonna be shown by kind of like these little lines right here. The central canal is gonna be this right here. The circumferential lamellae, that's gonna be these right here. The concentric lamellae, those are going to be these down here. The lacunae, those are going to be these little black lines right here. Nerve is represented by this kind of dark area right here. The osteocyte, drew one right here. The osteon is represented by this whole area. And then the last one is the periosternum, which is this right here. Again, I do apologize since I'm not the greatest artist in the world. I did kind of copy these drawings out of what was represented in the textbook. Again, just to show that no answers or anything on the back. And then lastly, I'm gonna go through bones and muscles of the head and torso. So the first one is the cervical vertebrae. So it's actually going to be this right here, and there are 7 of them. Next one is the diaphragm. So on me, a diaphragm is going to be right up here. The external abdominal oblique muscle, those are going to be on the outside of the abdomen. The frontal bone is going to be right, I'm actually going to turn them right here. The hyoid, you can't really, it's kind of hard to see on this guy, but on myself, let me see if I can angle this. On myself, it's actually going to be the bone right up here responsible for providing support for the tongue. Lumbar vertebrae, that's going to be these 5 down in here. The mandible and maxilla, so you have mandible here, maxilla here. Next is the nasal bone, which is going to be right here. So I'm going to use this, might be a little easier to point it out. The occipital bone, that's going to be on the back of the skull. And then you have the parietal bone, which is going to be right here. Next is going to be the rectus abdominis muscle, and that's going to be here on a person, kind of what's mostly known as 6-pack. You have the sacrum and coccyx. So that's going to be, you have the sacrum here, and there's actually 5 sub ones, and then you have 1 coccyx right here. And again, I do apologize, I'm kind of butchering the pronunciation of these. You have the sphenoid bone, that's going to be this little guy right here. You have the sternum, so that's going to be this right here. You have the temporal bone, which on the side is going to be right here. You have the thoracic vertebrae, so that's going to be kind of like from here down to here. That's and there's 12 of them. And then the, oh, I'm sorry, I think I actually skipped over the sternocleidomastoid muscle. That's going to be, it's kind of hard to show. That's going to be a muscle that goes kind of like from your neck, kind of like a little bit down, I would say. And then going back here, the trapezius muscle, that's going to be right here. This right here. And then lastly, the zygomatic bone on this little guy. So I can focus a little bit better. On this guy, it's going to be this